Hey, my friends, we will be right back to the show. But I have a question for you. Are you struggling with the impact of childhood trauma? Well, know that you're not alone. I'm here to let you know that I'm starting a brand new weekly coaching group that includes a year of life coaching, accountability, support, habit and goal setting, and more. I'm starting a waitlist for the group right now, and I'm only taking a handful of people. And I'll let you know that through this personalized coaching, we'll work together to help you understand how your childhood trauma has shaped your beliefs, behaviors, emotions, and will help you create a roadmap for healing and growth. Right now, you can schedule an absolutely free coaching session with me and get put on the wait list if you go to thinkunbroken.com. My friends, it's your time to turn your trauma into triumph, breakdowns into breakthroughs, and become the hero of your own story. And I'm here to support you in doing that. Just go to thinkunbroken.com to register for a free coaching call with me and to get put on the wait list for the brand new weekly coaching program. Hey, my friends, we will be right back to the show. But I have a question for you. Are you struggling with the impact of childhood trauma? Well, know that you're not alone. I'm here to let you know that I'm starting a brand new weekly coaching group that includes a year of life coaching, accountability, support, habit and goal setting, and more. I'm starting a waitlist for the group right now, and I'm only taking a handful of people. And I'll let you know that through this personalized coaching, we'll work together to help you understand how your childhood trauma has shaped your beliefs, behaviors, emotions, and will help you create a roadmap for healing and growth. Right now, you can schedule an absolutely free coaching session with me and get put on the wait list if you go to thinkunbroken.com. My friends, it's your time to turn your trauma into triumph, breakdowns into breakthroughs, and become the hero of your own story. And I'm here to support you in doing that. Just go to thinkunbroken.com to register for a free coaching call with me and to get put on the wait list for the brand new weekly coaching program. We'll be right back to the show. But before we do, I want to tell you about today's sponsor, factormeals.com, where if you go to factormeals.com/unbroken50 and use the code unbroken50, you can get 50% off your first order. That's factormeals.com/unbroken50. If you're like me and you are a person who is busy trying to create a life, heal, work on their health, wealth, and relationships, and not to mention deal with the day-to-days of normal life, you do not have time to be going to the grocery store and trying to figure out what you're going to cook every single day of the week. In fact, one time I did the math and I realized I was spending over 15 hours a week at the grocery store and cooking. When I added Factor, I got to use that time for myself, for my family, for my friends, for my community, and for my business. And so if you're in the place where you need some more support in the kitchen, head to factormeals.com/unbroken50 and use the code unbroken50 to get 50% off.
At Consumer Cellular, you get the same exact coverage as the largest carriers, but for up to half the cost. Same thing, up to half the cost. Up to half the cost for the same thing. 50% the money for 100% the same thing. I hope I'm making myself clear. Consumer Cellular. When freedom calls, we're here to answer. Call us at 1-888-FREEDOM.
Half the cost savings based on cost of Consumer Cellular single-line 5GB data plan with unlimited talk and text compared to lowest cost single-line postpaid unlimited talk, text, and data plan offered by T-Mobile and Verizon May 2023.
Hey, my friends, we will be right back to the show. But I have a question for you. Are you struggling with the impact of childhood trauma? Well, know that you're not alone. I'm here to let you know that I'm starting a brand new weekly coaching group that includes a year of life coaching, accountability, support, habit and goal setting, and more. I'm starting a waitlist for the group right now, and I'm only taking a handful of people. And I'll let you know that through this personalized coaching, we'll work together to help you understand how your childhood trauma has shaped your beliefs, behaviors, emotions, and will help you create a roadmap for healing and growth. Right now, you can schedule an absolutely free coaching session with me and get put on the wait list if you go to thinkunbroken.com. My friends, it's your time to turn your trauma into triumph, breakdowns into breakthroughs, and become the hero of your own story. And I'm here to support you in doing that. Just go to thinkunbroken.com to register for a free coaching call with me and to get put on the wait list for the brand new weekly coaching program. Reconnecting with our emotional capacity as human beings is arguably one of the most difficult things that we do healing trauma. And in today's episode, I want to talk to you about just the ways that I've been able to reconnect emotionally as a human being to myself. One of the biggest reasons that we become emotionally unregulated and dysregulated because of trauma is because effectively it's a survival mechanism. The way that we remove our brain from our body is the very thing that keeps us safe and keeps us protected. And because that mechanism serves us to the capacity and the function of survival, well, it just makes sense that we don't want to feel the emotions of all the bad things that happen to us. Now, this goes across the span of not necessarily only just childhood trauma and abuse, but I mean, really think about any time something majorly drastic happens in your life. Natively, the body just kind of, and the brain and the body just kind of want to remove themselves from each other so that you don't have to feel pain. Because, like, obviously at the end of the day, think about it, like, who wants to feel pain? Nobody. And in my journey, if I go recall thinking about these pivotal cornerstones of my life, a couple things really particular come to mind. One is I remember in my early 20s feeling like I was probably a sociopath. And I've mentioned this on this show before, but the reason that I felt that way was simply because I did not have the capacity to feel the emotions that came along with the abuse that I had suffered. And it was such an amazing defense mechanism for keeping me from feeling emotion. But simultaneously, it was also devastating in terms of keeping me disconnected from other people. We'll be right back to the show, my friend, but I wanted to let you know about our brand new podcast community for Think Unbroken podcast. I know that for so many trauma survivors like myself, for the longest time, I felt alone, like nobody got it, nobody understood, and that I was just going to have to figure this out on my own. But that's not true. And the reason why we created our brand new Think Unbroken Academy podcast community is so that we can bring all the members of the Unbroken Nation together in a place where we can learn, grow, heal, change, and transform our trauma into triumph. I would love to have you come and be a part of the brand new community. Just check out thinkunbrokenacademy.com or click the link in the podcast description. And I cannot wait to see you there, my friend. Again, just head over to thinkunbrokenacademy.com. And until then, be unbroken. And if you're in this place in your life right now where you feel entirely disconnected from other people, you might find some benefit in what I'm about to share with you. And this is simply information and what I understand to be fitting for me. Now, as you may know, I have spent a tremendous amount of time deep into trauma research. I have over 30 trauma-informed certifications and certificates. I've studied under some of the greatest minds on planet Earth, but the one thing that I have gained the most experience and education from in this journey has been through my own sample studies of my life experiences. And so as we go through this and I think about these aspects of life that have become the cornerstone for my own personal journey, I think it all starts with looking at things by step measure. If currently today and where you are, you feel dissociated, you feel disconnected, you feel like an emotional recluse, you feel like you cannot step into the emotional capacity you have to be a human being, you feel like everything that happens triggers you, you feel absolutely stuck in your emotions, and more so, you feel like you cannot overcome, let me tell you this. Those mindsets that you have about everything that I just laid out must be shifted if you want to create change in your life. Now, I am not what I would call an optimist. I'm just not. That's not my nature. I am a realist. And I simply look and measure the world through the scope of, has this thing that I want to do been done before? Because if the answer is yes, that means that I can do it. And so let's look at some of the points of measure that I've been able to do that have changed and transformed my life. Number one, and this is probably arguably the most difficult aspect of this, is the acceptance. The acceptance that bad things have happened to you. And acceptance is not culpability. So let's be very clear about that. Acceptance is not about you taking responsibility for parents who didn't take care of you, communities who didn't love you, and having the lack of support and nurturing that one needs in their developmental years to become a normal, functioning, sustainable human being. That's not what we're saying. What I am saying is that you have to accept that those things actually happen to you. And the biggest mistake that I made was constantly trying to push those things down, pretending that those things didn't happen, trying to hide from the truth and the reality that I was hurt, that I did suffer, that I had massive amounts of trauma and abuse, that I was, hurt in ways that most people can never fathom nor understand. And the more that I stuffed those things down, the more that they came out in these really negative coping mechanisms. And I stuffed it down because I was scared. Like, truth be told, I was absolutely terrified. People would see it and they would think I was weak. I would feel shame and guilt. I would feel like if other people around me knew the things that had been through, that I wasn't a man. And more so, if I could cope with those emotions that I felt by making them go away, it meant that I was strong. And that's a dangerous place to play, because when you do that, and this doesn't just apply to men, this applies to anyone who has had traumatic experiences. When you do that, the thing that comes from it is that you actually shut down the capacity to connect with other people in a human way. If you want to impress somebody, you show them that you're perfect. If you want to connect with somebody, you share your truth. And I was always pushing towards being perfect, because if I was perfect, that means nothing could hurt me. If I was perfect, that means nobody could touch me. If I was perfect, that means that every single day that I walked down the street, that I lived my life, then that meant that the trauma didn't matter. And so the more I stuffed it down, the more it came out. And it came out in a lot of ways, a lot of really detrimental ways that I'm still paying for decades later. Drugs, alcohol, sex, addictions to things like porn and video games and television, and spending money at the mall and clothes and shoes and, expensive restaurants and all of those things. I was addicted to the external. And that addiction to the external, I felt at the time, would help fill me up, would make me feel like a person. But I'll tell you this, I've never owned a pair of shoes that made me love myself. And because of that, that is where this really starts, is looking at the acknowledgement and saying, I accept that these bad things happen to me. I'm not responsible for these bad things, but I'm not going to hide from them. Because when we hide from them, they will show up, whether you like it or not. Now, that's probably the easier of these steps. The next step is that you have to actually feel it, like emotionally. You have to feel the impact of the experiences of your life. And that is never fun. Just to be straight up with you, it's not fun and it sucks. And it's probably the least enjoyable thing about emotionally reconnecting with yourself, because when you feel it, you can heal it. And that only comes in your ability and your capacity to let your walls down with yourself first and foremost, and to step into the emotional response that is sitting there and lying in wait. Right? If you ever feel like you're constantly fighting back your emotions, that's a really telltale sign that you need to actually step deeper into them. And I think about feeling into those emotions: anger, sadness, fear, love, compassion, joy, grace. If you can't feel one emotion, you can't feel any of them. It's a whole spectrum, and you have to be willing to step into them all. And so as you go deeper into feeling it, it's really about, can you let the truth exist? Can you not run from it? We run from the truth. We hide from the truth. We pretend that the truth is simply a make-believe. No, that didn't happen. That's not real. I'm not going to feel that because it sucks. It hurts. It's painful. But in reality, the thing that you need to do is to sit in it. Now, to sit in it proctored with therapists and groups and coaches and support system is certainly ideal. And I would say, if I could give you one massive piece of advice that I wish I would have had really starting this journey, it would have been, don't do this by yourself. Go and find emotional support, because when you have emotional support, you'll be able to navigate this better. And emotional support, it can be coaching, it can be groups, it can be support, it can be therapy. There's a lot of different ways. But when those emotions start to come up, sometimes if you're not careful and if you're not in a safe, structured environment, you can open Pandora's box. A lot of people have blank spots in their memories, right? They have these browned out areas where they don't recall experiences. And when you start to open up the mind through doing the work, through going into therapy, through the whole process of self-education, through even listening to podcasts like this and learning, one of the things that can happen is like these black spots, these brown spots will start to appear, and you'll have memories of things that happened to you 15 or 20 years ago that you had forgotten about. And that happened to me, where I was in group therapy, I was having conversations, and then over time, it's like more things would show up and more things would show up and more things. And the more that those things showed up, the more that they emotionally impacted me. Luckily, having had a support system when it got deep, I wasn't as impacted as I had been previously when I was kind of navigating alone through journaling, meditation, and yoga. So, hey, Unbroken Nation, we'll be right back to the show, but I wanted to let you know that you can grab a copy of my first book, Think Unbroken, Understanding and Overcoming Childhood Trauma, for free. If you go to book.thinkunbroken.com, you can download the PDF ebook version of the book and get everything that I know about the baseline of healing trauma for free, downloaded to your email right now. Just go to book.thinkunbroken.com to download your copy of Think Unbroken, Understanding and Overcoming Childhood Trauma for a PDF for your phone. Again, that is book.thinkunbroken.com. Feeling the emotions is absolutely paramount, but it makes a lot of sense to have support in feeling those emotions. And then you have to look at this from the third aspect of what we would call self-care and taking care of yourself, because it's not enough to go to therapy. I'm going to tell you right now, it's not. You have to have lifestyle changes. You have to have lifestyle changes in order to find long-term health. Because, and this is a thing that struck me that really changed my life, that I try to teach people when I coach them, that I talk about in the books just nonstop, is we are often treating ourselves as adults the same way that our parents and caregivers treated us as children. But we're doing it subconsciously because it has become normative for us to feel it necessary to suffer, because often the combination of suffering and pain equals love. In our mind, we go, if I'm suffering and I'm in pain, then that means I am loved. My parents beat me because they love me. They starve me because they love me. They don't take care of me when I'm sick because they love me. That is an association that the brain makes in the developmental years, right? And then think about this. This will really blow your mind. How often do you push back or pull away from people who actually do show up, who do care, who do love you, who are compassionate, who give you empathy and love, sympathy and grace, joy and fulfillment? How often do you put the block up immediately when they come? Well, think about that. If you're doing that to them, what are you doing to yourself? How are you showing up in your own life? Are you drinking too often? Are you smoking cigarettes? Are you getting high from the moment you wake up till you go to bed? Are you massively overweight and consuming sugar and processed food? Are you not sleeping because you're up all night watching TV and video games and playing and watching porn? Or is your sex life a total nightmare because you can't get intimate with someone because you're scared? Are you seeking validation externally through, maybe it's the opposite. You're working out 40 hours a week, right? You're eating such a strict diet, you can't extend any kind of joy into the way that you nourish yourself? Are you so tied into personal development and learning that you don't have fun? I have been in every one of those categories that I just laid out. And I think the most important thing is you have to ask yourself the question, what do I actually need? Because if you ask yourself that question, what you will come to find is that the things that you actually need may be the opposite of what you're giving yourself. And if you can actually create a framework of understanding, the thing that you're giving yourself very likely could be the things that your parents gave you in terms of pain and suffering, then you can kind of start to switch the narrative around the way that you think about those experiences. And that'll lead you to want to eat better, to want to reduce your stress, to want to live a healthier lifestyle, to want to quit smoking, quit drinking. And people ask me all the time, like, how did I quit smoking? And I smoked for almost a decade. And a period of time there, it was like 2 packs a day. Like I was really crushing these things like a chimney. And I had effectively come to the realization when I was about 28 years old that I was torturing myself because the pain was the only emotion that I had the ability to feel. And I decided that through what I assumed at the time would mean taking care of myself by quitting smoking, that means that I would actually love myself. And so that was a trial within itself. It took a very long time to get to the end of that road. And I didn't cold turkey it, that's for sure. There was a lot of back and forth, a lot of fuck ups in that process. But ultimately, what I got to was a realization that I need to do the opposite of what was expected for me to do for myself. And so it's really about, can you get in there? Can you manage your expectations? Can you get enough sleep? Can you eat well? And then number 4, and I'll come back to it, it kind of parlays in a lot of these spectrum of this conversation, is seeking support. We so often, even in the year that we live in, and even with all the social media around trauma and abuse, and even with all the podcasts and the coachings and blah, 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 there is still this space where many of us feel like we're alone. We feel like nobody gets it. We feel like nobody understands. We feel like we are battling this demon without any support or armor. And it's just not true. You know, I look at my own journey, and this is not comparative, so please don't take it that way. But, you know, growing up, having an ACE score of 10, suffering some of the most traumatic abuse and experiences I think anyone probably ever has. Again, not a comparison. I thought that I was alone. And that was until I started meeting people and I realized the truth that the aloneness was my own doing, and that I needed to seek support and love and guidance and hope and joy and compassion and mainly team from other people. And that led to things like yoga and therapy and group therapy and men's groups and support groups. And now effectively what I've done is built Think Unbroken Academy, which is around those same concepts and ideas that I needed to move through the aloneness. And so if you're in that place in your life where you do feel just completely alone and stuck and deep in the quagmire of what it is to be healing, finding other people who are in this journey with you is a foundational cornerstone to growth. It's the foundational cornerstone to healing. It's the foundational cornerstone to being able to learn to heal and love yourself. You don't have to go through this alone, but nobody's going to come knock on your door and say, hey, do you need support? Nobody's going to send you a message in skywriting and say, hey, I know Tom, Sally, Mary, Carolyn, Bill, Steve, I know you need it. We're here for you. You've got to be willing to go and seek that for yourself. And that is difficult and uncomfortable. And it can be ugly sometimes because you're going to have to let down your walls. You're going to have to be willing to be vulnerable. And a lot of times in that space of vulnerability, the very thing that happens is we say, well, I need help, but I don't want to put myself in a position to get hurt, so I'm not going to go and seek help. And the reason why that's dangerous is because when you do that and when you put yourself in that position, what inevitably will happen is that you will have walls up that are so high that when it's time to actually step in, you have disallowed yourself from the ability to feel because you've already predetermined. And so letting down your guard, having the willingness to step into and through vulnerability is ultimately going to be the most powerful thing that you can do for yourself. And, I created Think Unbroken Academy. That's at thinkunbrokenacademy.com. We created the Think Unbroken podcast. We've done all of this in the hopes that we can give you the support that you need. And, these are the four things that I did. When I walked into group therapy, when I walked into AA, when I walked into adult survivors groups, it was like somebody here's got to understand what the hell's going on in my life. Like it can't just be me out here by myself constantly being destroyed. Like there's got to be something to this. And the very thing that I discovered in that was true. And so my hope is, my friend, that you will take these 4 ways and you will step into them in a deeper capacity so that you can start to connect with yourself at a new, beautiful, and transformative way. Also, please join us at thinkunbrokenacademy.com so that you can find community, so you can find support. And until next time, my friend, be unbroken. I'll see ya. We'll be right back to the show, my friend, but I wanted to let you know about our brand new podcast community for Think Unbroken podcast. I know that for so many trauma survivors like myself, for the longest time, I felt alone, like nobody got it, nobody understood, and that I was just going to have to figure this out on my own. But that's not true. And the reason why we created our brand new Think Unbroken Academy podcast community is so that we can bring all the members of the Unbroken Nation together in a place where we can learn, grow, heal, change, and transform our trauma into triumph. I would love to have you come and be a part of the brand new community. Just check out thinkunbrokenacademy.com or click the link in the podcast description. And I cannot wait to see you there, my friend. Again, just head over to thinkunbrokenacademy.com. And until then, be unbroken. Thank you so much for listening to Think Unbroken. Please share this episode with someone who could use it and help us move forward in our mission of ending generational trauma in our lifetime. And if you would, please take 5 seconds to pop on iTunes or Spotify, hit that 5-star, leave a review, and you can also reach out to us on social at Michael Unbroken or at Think Unbroken. And of course, you can check out our YouTube channel at Think Unbroken. Thank you for being a part of Unbroken Nation, my friends, and until next time, be unbroken. Hey, my friends, we will be right back to the show, but I have a question for you. Are you struggling with the impact of childhood trauma? Well, know that you're not alone. I'm here to let you know that I'm starting a brand new weekly coaching group that includes a year of live coaching, accountability, support, habit and goal setting, and more. I'm starting a waitlist for the group right now, and I'm only taking a handful of people. And I'll let you know that through this personalized coaching, we'll work together to help you understand how your childhood trauma has shaped your beliefs, behaviors, emotions, and will help you create a roadmap for healing and growth. Right now, you can schedule an absolutely free coaching session with me and get put on the wait list if you go to thinkunbroken.com. My friends, it's your time to turn your trauma into triumph, breakdowns into breakthroughs, and become the hero of your own story. And I'm here to support you in doing that. Just go to thinkunbroken.com to register for a free coaching call with me and to get put on the wait list for the brand new weekly coaching program.